This week on RSBANDB Update, we ride the roller coaster that was 2023, covering everything from Fort Forinthry to Necromancy and even Hero Pass. We also touch on graphical updates, quests, and death. We discuss what updates made the year and what their success means for 2024. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 966, recorded Friday, December 8th, 2023. The Community Coaster. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week brings to you RSBANDB Update's 2023 Year in Review podcast, and to deliver that fine episode, the fine specimen of an episode to you, we have Tanis, as he's here each and every week.
Thank you, Shane. Got a big year. Big year.
Yeah, it's interesting looking at kind of like a rundown on this and seeing where we were and where we're at now and, you know, what's maybe to come. But also Sirion is here, of course. Welcome.
Yeah, no, what a year indeed. I think maybe not in terms of updates, but definitely in terms of in general, it's been one of the more eventful years for me.
Yeah, and you know, I say that the year this year most closely resembles to is the pandemic year.
No.
Sure.
No, I'm not on that one. I'm not on that train with you, Shane. This looks like 2015 Menopause year. Like, there's a lot more here than you remember or than it felt like at the time. But
I honestly think that's a perfect comparison. I think the Menopause year had its problems, and I think we are.
It was another one of those. It was another one of those.
Yeah, and I think right now honestly, in the lead up to this, I've been trying to think it through and like what to cover and what to talk about, and it's been so hard because on the one hand,
because there were really two pieces of content this year, right?
I think that is underselling the game, right? And I think that is definitely a notion I want to blow straight out from this show, like throughout the next hour and however long we go, because I think a lot happened, and I think a lot of good things happened.
Okay, that's
this
good.
year.
That's good starting on a positive note.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of good things happened this year that people might not remember this year for.
That's true. This year is going to be remembered for two things, and I'm going to say what those are after I thank our experienced tier Patreon members, for which our RSBANDB Update would not be possible. And this week, that's Amos Reed, Andrew C., Drama Free, Jason S., Jesse W., Kesky, Ricky A., Ripeth, Runestar, and The Naked Captain. Of course, you'll hear more about our Patreon offerings a little bit later in the podcast. But in the meantime, if you want to follow along to what show notes we have for this, update.show. You can find us in-game at Friends Chat, BitsBytes, and our community Discord is update.show/Discord. I am Shane12088. Tanis is at Tanis79, and Sirion is at Sirion.
Too cool for numbers.
I'm trying to point somewhere, but it's not working right. But what's this year?
He doesn't know what to do with his hands.
No, what's this year going to be remembered for? I mean, if you look at the big bullet points, this year is going to be remembered for two things: Necromancy and Hero Pass.
What? No. Okay. What the hell, Shane? I mean, Necromancy won, yes. I mean, a skill launch is definitely the highlight of any year that comes out, right? But Fort Forinthry, I mean, those are the two stories of the year.
All right, Sirion.
I think it depends. I think both answers are correct in a sense. If you want to talk about what will have the most impact on the game, I think it is going to be indeed Fort Forinthry and Necromancy.
True.
Because
the other one's been yeeted from the public record almost.
Yeah, because Hero Pass, I mean, people are making a big deal out of it, and they're gonna redesign it and do it together with the community. But I'm calling it. It's gonna come back in some form or another, and it might be called different. It might have some small adjustments to the amount of buffs it has. It might be balanced differently.
It might be another color of Yak Track.
Just wait till we get there, guys, because I figured this out. And Theron, you're right. It is coming back. And if there was only a few other things, if there was one thing, I can't wait to talk about it. There's one thing they could have done different. That
but like
September.
It's the thing, right? Like, we could say, Hero Pass has a massive, like, the fact that the community went and rioted about it and got it out of the game is going to change the course of the future for this game indefinitely. I'm like, no. I think you're overestimating.
The product team will not let that happen, despite how much the community relays that, right?
It's also learn business, people.
Yeah.
Learn how business works. Learn how the game industry works, right? This shit with these battle passes, it's here to stay. And the reason it's here to stay is because it makes 10 times as much money as any other monetization.
It's also really good for engagement when you're not putting out new skills.
Yeah, but the lesson to this, and I think we see this all over the place in the world, but the player base got hurt by something.
You know what? Screw it. Let's just start with Hero Pass. Let's just start with Hero Pass.
They got hurt, right? And because of that, they lashed out, and we lashed out in ways that wasn't productive. I don't think helped, but it was because they were hurt. Now, I don't think people actually knew what bothered them so much, and that's how the Pied Pipers took over and created a complete false narrative with some math that didn't exist. But the initial thing, the thing that hurt people, was the daily challenges. Theron's always said those need to be reworked. Don't disagree, but combining them, it's what hurt the player base. That's what set them on fire, and they didn't know it.
I think the exact system, if branded as a daily challenge rework and not necessarily as tightly integrated in monetization to begin with, could have been successful. I think it is.
And that was your initial reaction when you showed me that post.
Oh, I loved it. Yes. And I was like, yes, please.
And that was the most interesting thing, is that we were going into Hero Pass week thinking this was going to be a wonderful update.
Oops.
Well, no. Maybe you did, but like.
Oh, did you see the writing on the wall?
But I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, okay.
You didn't tell me that.
I did.
I don't remember that, but okay.
Oh my goodness. I am sure I did. Because it is like, if it's MTX related, you know it's going to be a shit show.
But having MTX related with taking something out or changing it, that was the problem.
And then here we fast forward to Christmas. The Christmas event is tied into daily challenges.
But you're not being, but it's not.
No. What I'm saying is that the fact that the Christmas event is now tied into daily challenges speaks to how important those daily challenges were.
Yeah, I mean, can we just make it a rule that don't take anything away and replace it with MTX? You know what I mean? Like, that's just a bad look. Like, it's just.
It wasn't replaced with MTX. It was replaced with a system that happened to replace Yak Track, which was a heavy MTX product. I think Hero Pass was actually less MTX than Yak Track.
I mean, probably. I wouldn't disagree with that, but the perception of it was not that. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And
It was also the
Absolutely.
buffs that did it, like the skip clue scroll steps and
Oh
whatnot.
my god, the buffs! Who cares?
Right,
I
and
know that. Yeah.
this was the most controversial opinion I had, is that the buffs were the thing I was looking most forward to.
It was, yes. No.
And it's the thing that will be. I'm sorry, guys. That will be monetized at some point in this game, no matter how hard.
Well, they've been kind of
people
flirting with
fight.
it too this year, right? With the Golden Cape Hunt, with the Halloween event, with the Vorkath event. You know, they're getting us used to these kind of little buffs that are being put on our character, and that at some point it'll come through a system like Hero Pass, like some other monetization scheme, maybe.
Hey, here's a hot take. I'd rather have those than double XP weekends.
Well, you're in luck, because I think you're going to end up with a double XP token. I mean,
Where
Like,
you
I
do
think
your
I've-
where you get a token and you decide I'm having 48 hours of double
Yeah.
XP.
yeah.
Yeah. And
That's what I
make
think
it come
comes.
out of Hero Pass, Dollar Shop Hero Pass, sorry, because it's not actual Hero Pass. Like, this is so common among MMO games.
Yeah.
That
And see, the interesting thing about all of this is that there was that community reaction and response to it from CM, and the sense that the community got and has been running with since October has been that Jagex has said, yes, we hear you, we're not doing this. That's the impression people are under right now.
yeah, and
And my idea behind that is, how long does that last, and how long are they able to, in effect, keep the product team away from coming up with the next generation of it? Because
I think
every Premier Club going back X amount of years has had some kind of premium event access, and this is the first one that doesn't, and that leaves a huge gap in the Premier offering. So are they going to, put something in for that in the new year at some point? I don't know. Hard to say.
I don't think they ever said, though, that they wouldn't go back to something more akin to a Yak Track. Or look, I think you could have even gotten. Obviously, you can never call it Hero Pass, right? Like, we could never call it.
You can't
Squeal
have
of
the word
Fortune.
pass in it.
But we guess what? We still got Squeal, right? All the same. We call it a treasure chest, and it's still the same thing. You could have a Hero Pass, I think, as long as it wasn't connected to something, like daily challenges.
I mean,
Like,
the problem is, it's such a natural fit, right? If I were to play the game, I want to do my daily challenges, and if those daily challenges happen to also contribute to my battle pass system, that's kind of what you want, right? Because otherwise I need to grind two different things every day. So you can't disconnect them.
But
I
feel.
so we could leave them how they are, right? And you could just have them as counting towards the pass. I think if that had been done,
I
it
would
would've
replace
been
the
fine.
week. I would replace the weekly track, because who cares? I don't know
But
if
the
that's
thing is,
thing
right
people care
now,
about.
you are speaking
Yeah.
from this as from a pure design perspective, and a way the design and product teams could interact with that. I don't think the regular players understand that, based on what I saw. I don't think that's what they want. I don't think they want to go that way. I think that the RS3 community is at a point right now where, if there's any other further push towards the monetization side, it would in effect spur a reaction similar to what would happen if the old school RuneScape team decided to monetize old school RuneScape.
I mean, but
I think
what
we're
you're
at
then
that
saying,
point.
Ooh, that'd be
what you're
bad.
then saying is that the community right now is holding the game hostage, because the game needs to make money, right? We have seen, like, over the past few months, all these layoffs at all these studios under Embracer Studios.
Yeah.
Jagex does not seem to be affected yet, but we are in an economic downturn.
And those kind of things ripple throughout the economy.
Exactly.
In the games industry.
Well, but
when a game stops being profitable, right?
You guys give him way too much credit.
Who?
any company for that matter. Like, do you think if they're with their MTX money, they're hiring more developers, or they're going to
It's an economic link that if there is a downturn spurred by Embracer's multi-billion-dollar mess up, and that's going to ripple throughout all the companies that they own, that is then going to spill over to the other game dev companies out there.
But I don't think. Okay, but I don't think anyone was saying no more monetization, unless that was something that I didn't pick up on. I don't think anyone was trying to push that point.
I think that's the logical end goal of where they went with that.
But we accepted it until a point, right? So there is something with that particular product, and I think it was the daily challenges that made it different. But going forward, I wouldn't see any reason that we can't have any kind of monetization.
No,
whatsoever.
I mean, like, Yak Track was fine when it was in, right? I think people accepted Yak Track. I don't think they're going to accept any further monetization push for RS3, despite...
But ironically, right, they accepted Yak Track after not accepting Rune Pass.
True.
That's true. Details, Sirion, details.
But Yak Track was basically Rune Pass.
Yeah,
except we put like a
cute
furry animal on it, because if there's a cute furry animal on it, we all like it.
But I do agree with the point that the game's in a position now. You call it held hostage if you want, where if there is need for a future monetization scheme, they're not going to be able to do it without significant blowback.
There's a trend here, right? There's a trend here. Squeal of Fortune, people hated it. Yeah. Treasure Hunter was okay. They just put a pretty woman there. Rune Pass, they hated it. Hero Pass, they liked it. Just put a cute furry animal there. So, I think we know what they need to do to fix Hero Pass. Just put something there that people want to look at.
A cute furry animal, or
a cute furry animal,
a hot furry woman, or what are we? Where are we going with?
I don't know, but they
can do the target audience research and figure out what they want to see, and then just put it there and problem solved.
Yeah, and the interesting part is that this happened in September. Yet it feels like it was so long ago and took up the entire year. But there's still 9 months worth of content that we have to go through. So I'm going to ask for, are there any other points on Hero Pass before we go on? Because I think benefit of hindsight, it's clear where things go.
I want to wrap it up because we started there because we were saying what are the two things this year will be remembered for. And I said in the game Impact, it's those two. It's Fort Forinthry and it is Necromancy. But I think the Hero Pass is what is going to ripple out more in the community, the trust, and everything that is around the game. I have noticed this in my own behavior. I have noticed this in the people around me. You can notice it in player numbers. Just saying. Just don't look at the player graphs around that time. It's a little bit messy. But that's the thing, right? Like that, and that I think shows how making a good game is important, but running the game is maybe even more important. And I'm very curious to see how that is going forward. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about this, but I have this uncomfortable feeling that everybody is pretending we're fine, but everybody is like, this is like family dinner, right? Where everybody is silently eating and looking angry at each other, and someone's like, "How was your day?" Like, "It was great. How is yours?" Right? Like that's like everybody's just angry with each other.
Like I said, we're snapping right back to where we were in September, October with the next monetization update that comes out.
Perhaps, but let me help us end on a positive note when it comes to this. I think something good did come out of it. And I'm not talking about the creators that jumped ship, but I'm talking about the players who, for the first time, gave OS a legitimate look and try, not because they hated Hero Pass so much, but because they were just fed up with everything RS3 related, right? Like, and they needed a break. If anything, I think it showed that this is one RuneScape more than any other time since the inception of old school.
Yeah.
I feel now like I'm just picking whatever version I want rather than being in a camp,
right?
That we had always been in.
And that very aspect helped me get over the whole old school thing. And that happened when I went to RuneFest. And hopefully, like you're saying, that happened for many other people this fall. So, but there were,
yeah. But in the end, I think we can summarize it as what we have talked about. What has happened? I think what needs to go next is we need to have the community and Jagex go to couples therapy. I think they need to talk it out, and hopefully the discussion and the co-design on the daily challenges.
Maybe we just need to bring in some other games, just to keep.
Won't anybody think of the children?
There were other updates this year, big systems updates, aside from Necromancy, and we'll just run through some of these quickly. The Death Cost rework was the first update of the year.
Dude, I came in and saw that. I was like, I can't believe I did not remember this. It was so big. Like, how did something that big? I totally forgot about.
This made it so that with, relatively run-of-the-mill tier 90-ish PVM gear, if I died, I was paying at most 65, 70K per death, which wasn't the case before.
Thinking back of it, what I'm really disappointed about is that we never really got any follow-up, right? We never really got information on, did this actually achieve the goals that it wanted to achieve?
Well, I think inflation is down.
You think inflation is down? Okay, yeah. I mean, it's hard to say.
Like, just in terms of looking at the cost of everything, in terms of raw materials and whatnot, and how money has its value, and I feel like the cost of things has come down through a combination of the Death Cost rework, the Grand Exchange fee, the Max Cash update, and actually, believe it or not, Necromancy, by making Necromancy one of the best combat styles out there. That has in turn pushed the value of everything else down. And when you do that in concert with removing GP from the economy with Death Costs and Max Cash update and the Grand Exchange fee, I think the economy as a whole, as a result of this trio, is in a better spot than it was back in January.
Okay, but how is the balance between, and then this is always something that has bothered me to no ends, is that traditionally PVM has been more profitable than either skilling or even doing clues, let's be honest, right?
Oh yeah,
still
much more consistent.
That's still the case.
I always deemed that acceptable because PVM came with a risk involved. And now I feel, because that's been pulled equal, I don't know. I don't know. It feels a little bit silly. The tax feels bad as well sometimes.
It's a fee.
Yeah.
I think I could fix it, Sirion, if you just give me the dual arena back and give me the tax there. We can pull out all the cash out of the economy we need to. We could keep death costs low. We could do it, guys. We could do it.
He just wants the Sand Casino back.
I just believe in taxing vice, right? I mean, don't take it away.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, big systems update went off relatively well without a hitch. Max Cash update is something that made things purchasable on the GE that weren't before. And, overall, this is one of the quiet success stories of the year, I think. So.
Yeah.
We also had Jagex accounts reaching full dominance this year with the ability to add all of our accounts to it and two-factor authentication and just tie everything nicely together. They saw that through as a product of the login lockout, which was
it doesn't feel super impactful.
No, it doesn't.
Because I guess it's just because you don't switch characters very often. You know, like might work on one, work on another, but yeah, not as impactful as I thought it would be.
The big thing it did to me is it brought a lot of the backbone to the modern world, right? Like the old system, the old login screens, that entire thing, it just felt ancient.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Like people didn't know this.
It was ancient.
Like people didn't know this. People were trying to put in special characters and uppercase characters in their old RuneScape passwords. It didn't support either of those.
No.
Yeah.
And for people who have written at least a basic user authentication model before, you know exactly what that means. I'm not going to say what I'm thinking of right now on here, but if you know what that meant. And that's why moving to Jagex accounts was such a big deal this year. So, in any case, should we get on to the skilling piece of content of the year?
Which one?
Fort Forinthry.
Oh,
another thread that ran throughout the entire year.
I thought you were going to talk about something else.
Oh,
Fort Forinthry? That wasn't a skilling update, wasn't it? That was just questing.
No, Fort Forinthry brought in a new construction training method.
Fort Forinthry was all of it. It was QLL, it was skilling, it was questing. It was modern, I think, RuneScape storytelling, right?
Yeah,
and how content's going to be done.
And that's what we walk away with from this, is that quests that are delivered in small bite-sized fashion, like TV shows, that if you glue all of the quests from this year together, you get one or two large master quests. Whereas all these were, completable in largely under an hour, to varying degrees of success, based on, of course, who you talk to and whatnot, and what their preferences in questing are.
They were appropriate size. I mean, I would not call them they were quest. Like, in my book, they were quest. Like,
yeah, and I think the interesting perspective comes in on this, especially from doing some of the quests back from the golden age of questing. I need to be 100% real with you guys. Those quests from the golden age of questing that everybody always talks about, those were RuneScape's fetch quests.
Yeah, I have not made up my mind yet how I think, like, what I think of the new quests we saw. Like, the trend we saw in quests this year is that we never got just a quest.
Right.
The quests. Mm-hmm. I mean, I have just finished the Battle of Forinthry, and it's a tutorial.
It's an introduction to Vorkath.
It's a tutorial.
Yeah. With our underground prison thrown into it.
And Necromancy does the same, right? Where a lot of the quests tie into unlocking and explaining a new part of the skill.
And that's exactly where I went on the podcast.
And I'm appreciative of the fact that we're getting more quests, but it feels a little bit like we are just tying the quest to some existing piece of content because that's the only way we'll get them. But the existing persistent piece of content often needs a lot of dev attention as well, so the quests tend to be, I don't want to say bland, I think that is a nasty word, but they lack some depth.
Yeah, they lack the depth of the 6th Age and Elder God Wars quests.
Well, of course they did. I mean, but look how long those took. And do we want to be in that kind of a situation?
I don't know.
I think there's a difference between.
No. I agree. And I don't want to go super deep, but I think for the size that these quests are, like, let's look at the Fort series, right?
Yeah, because they're different, right? Like I feel like the Fort series is a lot better. It only has one quest, like what you're talking about, Sirion.
Yeah.
Whereas the Necromancy had a lot of tutorial quests.
Yeah.
Sure, like three of them.
Sure.
Yeah.
My problem, I think, with the Fort series is that it tried to like there were so many characters involved, right? Was it Ancient Awakening, I think, where before you went to Umgal, you have to go and basically visit all the characters that you have talked to in the quest series before, and it felt like a massive to-do list. And that to me felt a little bit awkward. And like if you think about TV series, there's like a smaller focus cast typically that you focus on, and that it felt a little bit too unfocused. It felt like it wanted to involve a few too many characters, and I think it would have been better if they had stuck like maybe with just the 2 or 3 of them, like the Raptor and Aster.
Yeah.
The Raptor and Aster, right?
Yeah.
Make those the 2 characters, and the rest is support staff. Like don't. Okay, and Princess. Princess can join. Princess. Let's be honest. That was the real star of the show. But that to me felt, yeah.
So which one of these quests do you think then was the star? I'm gonna go with Murder on the Border.
That was the murder one, right?
The murder mystery, yeah.
The clue. I would actually agree with that because if you know, you know, and I cannot stand what they did with the Raptor. So
I think it makes sense after the how Queen Elameria was portrayed in Garden of Tranquility and whatnot.
Yeah.
This is why we can't have nice things. But Murder on the Border was kind of cool. It was kind of like cool.
It was the only quest of the entire series. No, but like New Foundations was an intro to the fort. It's essentially build the fort. It's a mini quest, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
Murder on the Border, actual quest, liked it, and then Unwelcome Guests and Dead and Buried. That all felt a little bit.
That was to build the Slayer stuff.
Build up. Just introduce just reasons to add more content.
That was kind of questy, right? Like introducing Zemouregal back and.
Yeah, Ancient Awakening was the most questy, I guess.
That's true in terms of the Raptor reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So.
Or was it Dead and Buried that revealed?
That was Dead and Buried that had the reveal.
Dead and Buried had the Raptor reveal, and that's when we got the mid. Is that when we got the mid-season break? When we got Necromancy? I think so.
Yeah, because Dead and Buried came out in July, so that would have been right before Necromancy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think overall the story is not bad, and I don't want to say the quests are bad, but the pacing and the fact that it's so I would have liked if they had uncoupled the quests a little bit.
Yeah, and this was my thing too, is that each of these quests on their own, in terms of implementation, graphics, there were no bugs, and how they flowed as quests, great, exactly what you'd expect, right? Mm-hmm. But they were not in the vein of the traditional RS quest. They were not in the vein of the typical Sixth Age quest. They were different. They were quests supporting content.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that that's because they're realizing that they get zero replayability out of quest?
Yeah.
It's got the lowest engagement of everything. So in order to keep them going, like Sarah said in the beginning, they're tying them with content.
It to me is staggering, because if you combine this with our Hero Pass discussion, right, it feels like the decisions that are being made on what content we're seeing on RS is what ends up giving the most money. Right now, short term. It's a very short term thinking.
And that's
I look at the content that Old School is getting, and I'm like, this is retention, this is longevity, this is bringing old pieces of content up to par again, so people go and play it. This is adding new quests that are actually pretty awesome. They got Desert Treasure 2 this year. Imagine what a show this would be if we were talking about Desert Treasure 2 this year.
And that's what I said after each one of these quests. I like this quest. I like the way it interacted with the content. But what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing a slimming down of quests in service of content that I don't know leave space for those kind of huge epic quests that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't even need the huge epic quests. That's the ironic
thing,
and, right?
And I mean, even something in between that's not necessarily tied to it, right?
Yeah, like what was the Valentine's quest we got at some point? Like the Stealer of Hearts? Heartstealer. That was, I'm going to say it, a better quest than all of the 6 fort quests.
Well, good thing the fort had other redeeming qualities.
Woodcutter's Grove.
Dude, it has all kinds of redeeming qualities.
You remember how many times we were told we could not have a new hatchet because of legacy code, tech debt, and all that spaghetti stuff?
It's funny how that can get figured out when you want it to be figured out.
Yeah, no.
Like, I just want to say, if Necromancy did not exist, Woodcutter's Grove would be my update of the year.
Mm-hmm.
No ifs, ands, or buts on that.
I mean,
like the ore box, the wood spirits, the Emcando hatchet. All we need now for the full woodcutting rework is to make trees so they don't deplete like they did with the ore. That's all we need.
Yep, that's it.
And they did that in old school. Maybe they could look at the old school code and bring some of that over. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, but you're right. That and not just Woodcutter's Grove. I mean, that by far is the standout of it. But what I think is overlooked more than anything is its central hub quality.
It's the scaling hub that people always wanted, Fort Forinthry, and people have been clamoring for that Max Guild update. Whereas the Fort delivers more than the Max Guild ever had.
Oh, way more. I mean, you have a place to do your smithing. You have a place to check your machines.
Herblore.
You have a place to do Herblore.
Prayer,
you have a place
cooking.
to range. You got a place for fletching. You got a place. It's got everything. But the other things that I mean, the standout things for me are like you can check your miscellanea. You can check your anachronia. You can all those other things that where you used to have to kind of go all around the world and travel, and it's nice to be right there in the fort. You can check all that stuff. Some of that stuff is stuff that I don't even do because I don't want to be bothered. But if I'm at the fort, I'll go check it. It's like, oh, well, I'm right here. Like, and to me, that is one of the like just hidden jewels of the Fort Forinthry.
Yeah, and so with that, maybe it wasn't about the quest in the end.
No,
I mean,
wasn't.
It was the port.
It wasn't. It wasn't. But like, and this is the ironic thing. We've for a long time we have measured the number of quests that were released per year.
Yeah.
If you look at all the quests this year, right? Besides the the holiday event, we can talk about that separately. There were the 5 necromancy quests and the 6 fort quests.
Well, what do you guys want? Jeez, it sounds like they're giving you all kinds of quests.
We want Elemental Workshop Part 2. We want puzzles in the realm of the light puzzle. We want Desert Treasure 2. We want the Gnome finale.
Every one of those hurt me in some way, Sean.
But I do agree that the fort is in the end a scaling update. I think they added overall a few really cool things.
Yeah.
I don't care much for the Slayer additions, but
No.
I think the construction stuff was great. The woodcutting stuff was great.
And remember how we got the construction stuff? I think it was Mod Jack that said initially they were planning that you would build the buildings once, and that would be it. And they knew the players would want to keep rebuilding them. The XP, when they were first added, not that great. A couple months later, they upped the XP, and the fort buildings become a legit construction training method.
And I love that. Love the new planks. Love the new planks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's that above the surface world construction training that they had been wanting to get into the game for so long.
And for people who remember 2003, that's exactly what Andrew Gower wanted construction, or carpentry as it was called back then, to be.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And look, I have all kinds of things where I'm like, I wish there was also this, and I wish they had done it like that. But on the whole, I think it's such a solid piece of content, and I wish there was more customization, because
it's solid because you built it that way by hand.
Yeah, I like that. I like getting things in the game, getting access to things in the game that you have worked for.
It's about time I get the respect and the title I deserve too around this place. I've been saving people for years, and I'm just now recognizing.
World Guardian wasn't enough for you?
No, I want. They no land come with World Guardian. Like I want a title. I want land. I want to be a nobility.
Okay.
So, yeah, but no, this is for me. This was my favorite update of the year. It's useful for a max player like myself, and even more useful for someone still coming up.
Yeah.
Like. Yeah. When I was using the second account, like, oh man, the fort's the best. You could do everything. Like, you know how spread out some of these things are in the world. Where the fort just brings in the bank chest next to the cookie. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of other places where you can do that in the world. So it's even more useful, like, the lower your level is.
Yeah, that's true. And so that's why you called it a sleeper. Go ahead, Sirion.
We've now had over the year Fort as sort of the focal point of all the updates. Most of the quests were around it. The skilling updates were around it. It's now sort of wrapped up with the Battle of Fort Forinthry. It's sort of done. I think this marks the end of it, if I understand correctly. That means next year, new chances. What do you guys think of they pick like another focal point like that? Like, how would that look, and would it work if they did this like a new thing each year?
Yeah.
I would be totally.
I would be down for that.
Didn't they say it was a 2-year?
Yeah, the storyline is going to continue into the next year.
Oh my god!
So the storyline, because after.
But I ran out of space for my building.
I know. I don't like. I think we're done building the fort, but that storyline with Moya and Bill Rock is definitely going to continue.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Zemouregal has to escape from the fort. He's going to set up shop in Fremennik. We'll have to free him. They were going to have to cede some territory to us for in exchange to whoop him again. And then we'll have. And then we'll be like the U.S. and we'll just put bases all over Gielinor, wherever the hell we damn well please. How about that?
All right. So I guess we have that to look forward to.
Yeah, but no, I definitely expect there.
Where do we put our nukes, right?
Kandarin.
Yeah, exactly. Point it straight at Camelot.
All right, so before we get too far down the track here and talk about Vorkath and Necromancy and all that, I just want to take a moment and thank our Patreon supporters for this episode for the last regular time of this year. I'd like to thank Alvaro L, Amos Reed, Andrew C, Arvid Zell, Chilbura, Dominic R, Drama Free, Duramax, Free Milk, Gila Fleur, Jacob G, Jade Gizmo, Jason S, Jeebus, Jesse W, Keski, Lemon Lodge, Ling01, Nate the Great, Pernasius, Renhawk, Ricky A, Rippeth, Runestar, Samuel FL, Scott DS, Shirt Pants, The Naked Captain, The Dabbing Goat, Tim, Tom V, Ukulele Steve, Zant, and Zazakon. A big, huge thank you to each and every one of you and everybody who has supported RSBANDB Update over the year. It means the world to us. And if you're wondering what we're talking about, check us out at patreon.com/RSBANDB, where for as little as $1 a month, you can gain access to a back catalog of monthly bits or bonus shows, as we call them. We have the one that came out in December about RuneScape's graphical future. We have one coming out in January, just a couple of weeks from now, about Slayer tasks and which Slayer tasks are the best. Think of it as another one of our world-famous tier lists, this time hot or not Slayer tasks. And with that, you compare it with, of course, the Dailyscape tier list, the PVM boss tier list, the skill tier list, and so many others. And a wide selection of monthly bits, too, all available for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/RSBNB. And of course, with that, you also get the satisfaction of helping support RSBNB Update throughout the year. We also do have an option with our VIP tier for $3 a month, where you receive a special VIP rank on our Discord, gain access to a chat channel, and get a special rank. And you also get high-quality stereo versions of the podcast each and every week. And if you want to give the ultimate gift, perfect thing to start up with for 2024, we have our Insider Chair, where you receive a shout-out on the podcast each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes we use to make the clip show at the start of the year. And of course, all of this and more can be found at patreon.com/RSBNB. And a big, big, huge thank you to everybody who supports the podcast via Patreon. You guys mean the world to us, and we couldn't do it without you. Thanks so much. Before we move too far away from the fort, I do want to mention the Vorkath and Zemouregal boss fight, because that was part of the year as well. And for the fact that this content is only weeks old at the time of recording this, makes me want to let this stew for just a little while longer. But the sense that I got from this boss fight is that this was a boss fight designed for the entry to mid-level PVMers with hard mode put on top. And I feel like that's been one of the greatest misconceptions in the community, is that every boss fight needs to continually push the envelope with new tier 95 gear, the hardest challenges, so on and so forth. And there needs to be room, in my view, for this mid-level range of PVM, which I think Vorkath and Zemouregal did just fine, minus a couple of teething issues that were patched out in the first week and a bit.
Well, as I've often said, Shane, you can look at the scaling community if you want to see how this works. And not every update we get is for 120s and post 99.
Yes.
So I know, guys, it's hard when you get an update and it doesn't directly affect you, but it is kind of how the game goes. And no, I kind of like this as a combat encounter. So just that in of itself tells me that like legit PVMers probably hate it, because I can do it. But you know, I get it. Like, it's not fun when you.
And it was also living up to Vorkath and old school RuneScape as well, which it didn't meet.
Which it never could have done.
Yeah.
It never could have done that.
Yeah.
Oh.
But speaking of combat and PVM, the other central thread this year, Necromancy. The first new combat skill since summoning. And a lot of us were asking why. And I go back a year, Tanis. A year ago, at this point in time, he said, I don't need this. I'm not playing this.
Yeah.
How do
the hype won. And I played this. And I believed in this. And it's a tale of one skill, but a tale of two experiences. It is fun, and it is enjoyable, and I enjoy the content. It changed nothing when it comes to the combat for me, which is what I kept trying to tell myself was not going to happen. Sarah, on the other hand, knew it was going to happen, kept saying it was going to happen, and I'm like, no, dude, no, it's not purple magic. And I got purple magic, but it's okay. It's fun.
It's easy to do big numbers with it. I want to hear Sirion's thoughts on necromancy now that we have it.
What more is there to be said than I've said on Necromancy review episode? Honestly,
has your opinion at all changed since then?
No, I've barely played since. It's not drawing me back in. It's just not drawing me back in. I mean, I used it for the Vorkath encounter because it's convenient. It happens to be what I equipped. Happens to be the combat gear that I've worked to get myself. I like that. I like the self-sufficiency that's involved in necromancy. I like how little it relies on the drops and the RNG, which people know I have a reputation for RNG absolutely hating my ass. Yeah, no, that's what I like about necromancy. I can sort of it's my thing. It's still combat, and I've never liked combat. I respect how people have learned the quirks of the combat system. I have respect for people who enjoy getting really good at it. I do not. I respect that people see a new challenge in necromancy. I understand that they enjoy that adrenaline works differently, and there's necrosis, and there's different stacks. I find it one big confusing mess, because the UI is problematic, and it should never have shipped with the bad UI that it did.
Well, the very fact you have people using Alt-1 plugins to show necrosis and souls speaks volumes to that, right?
It is genuinely tempting for me that if I ever wanted to do more PVM with necromancy than Slayer, essentially, I almost feel it's a must, and I think that shows a flaw, and the fact that doesn't get addressed as a priority by the game shows to me that they have already passed on from necromancy.
And see, that's the thing that interests me the most about this, is that, it would have been engine work to add in a soul tracker, add in a necrosis tracker, and to, better telegraph where those sorts of extra resources are going. But they didn't, and I don't know, how much extra work it would have been if it was a case of not meeting the time commitment on that. But one interesting thing, and I plan to ask him about this at some point, ask Mod Ryan about this, is that part of the combat beta that he's working on has a new little bar that'll appear above your action bar to show when you're channeling an attack. And I'm like, okay, if that's happening there, maybe something like that could be done with necrosis or souls and the like, to kind of, paint a picture of where you're at. And I want to, in a way, provide a bit of a different story about necromancy, because you guys feel that it really didn't change the combat system for you. And I get that. But I think the one thing necromancy did, and did really well, was provide an on-ramp to PVM and combat for people who wanted that. As in, if you wanted to start learning how to do PVM and combat, there was no better time than necromancy, with all of the armors that you would make leveling up, with the Hermod boss fight, and later on the Raziel boss fight, both of which start in story mode, and it can be progressed up to their full normal modes after that. And with that, necromancy is powerful enough through the conjures, through the abilities, to be able to go out and do Reaper tasks and pretty much kill anything in-game. And there was a point in time where necromancy was far, 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 far above all of the other combat styles in terms of the amount of DPS that it would push out. And they adjusted that largely by way of tweaking the conjures. But I still think that core necromancy story of making combat more accessible, not for everybody through, you know, just how the game engine works, but just by, in effect, making it a more gradual climb up, rather than the climb that Magic Mulligan Ranged had. And I know what the next big question is about this. If they did this with Necromancy, why didn't they just do this with the legacy combat styles to begin with? And now we're seeing them do that in the combat beta.
Well,
I think that's the true story of Necromancy.
Yeah.
I disagree, because that okay. I'm going to sound very gaslighty here. I disagree because I didn't experience it that way is not a good argument. I accept that. I disagree because it introduces so many. Like, I think a lot of the meta we see right now around Necromancy has been developed by and is used by people who were already integrally familiar with the tick system,
and that's
with the accuracy,
yes,
with all of the equations that were already in the game. In the end, Necromancy wasn't different enough. It was too much purple magic for me to be really that transformative.
And see, that's the thing. I don't consider myself somebody who needed that on-ramp. I consider myself somebody who has killed all of the bosses in game, some of the more difficult ones hundreds of times, that the step into Necromancy was easy for me, so it just made sense. And I don't know what it's like for somebody who has done, you know, maybe only a handful of Reaper tasks before, doesn't think in ticks and whatnot.
I mean, for me, ironically, the story of Necromancy is everything other than the actual combat. Is where Necromancy shined. You know, some of the quests were just tutorials, but it was a fun, interactive, kind of immersive story. I liked the setting. Loved the armor system. Absolutely loved it. Best thing to come out.
Can we all agree that the armor system then was something that everybody likes, whether or not you like the combat? Sirion, you good for that?
Yeah, no, the combat system. As much as I hated being forced into doing Nex, I think it's a good thing, ultimately. No, because it forces you to do challenges that are level appropriate.
Hey, we still got to go to Ambassador at some point.
Yeah.
No, I first got to get 90 Necromancy at some point.
But all the stuff around it was really fun and really awesome. And I don't know, maybe having the best way to level up a combat skill as being a skilling method.
I was going to go there next, the rituals.
It might have told us something if we've been paying attention.
Because we didn't know this in the first week, but literally your best bet for training Necromancy is the tutorial area to 30. Go kills like, I don't know, Shadow Warriors or something. Or no, sorry, not Shadow Warriors, Ghosts or something like that to level 40. Go pick up rituals until you get enough souls for the first couple quests. Go back to combat till level 70, and then just do rituals all the way to 120 after that. And that's what it turned out to be.
I mean, to me, rituals should have merely been the production aspect of the skill, like the artisan part of the skill. You know, along with making armor or whatever, that kind of stuff. But it was the rituals. And it ended up being like the training method, which was really surprising. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, and, you know, there's also an untold story there about the random events, how they had to be, you know, toned down to a point where they were able to be interacted with in that first couple weeks there. And our general sense is that initially the random events were designed to have negative aspects to them if you didn't interact with them, and that was scrubbed shortly before launch. It would be
it would have been terrible.
That. So, I mean, I still think Necromancy made PVM easy for anybody who wants to do it and to learn the tick system.
I think it made it easier for people that could already
it made it easier, but I don't think it brought the kind of transformational change that the both of you have talked about.
I mean, I hated to be the party pooper ahead of launch. I didn't have high expectations, and I tried to hype myself up, and I was disappointed. And
we were also hoping it would be another archaeology too.
I know that it wasn't going to be archaeology, because that was just a perfect storm.
Special,
yeah. So what do we think? What's the bigger update of the year? Necromancy or Fort Forinthry? Because those are the two big, like if we're going to group the year into polls, those are the two big bipolar
impact
aspects
on the game.
Of the game. Yeah.
If that's the, if that's what we're judging it against, then it has to be Necromancy.
Sirion?
I mean, you cannot fault Necromancy for being the biggest skill, because it's a fourth combat style.
Yeah. So that's bigger than Fort Forinthry then, just by the nature of it's a new combat style, not only a new combat skill, but a new combat style.
Yeah.
I think the Fort was better executed.
Yep.
That's interesting, because I don't see, looking back, aside from the things that we've just talked about, I don't see that many, execution pitfalls in Necromancy.
What does it deliver? It delivers a make your own army path. And magic that looks purple. What does it truly transform?
It looks like magic, but at the same time, it's not using magic spells.
No, uses the magic Tsar cape, because they stole the color purple, but...
Yeah.
No, but what's the truly... Okay, a new take to accuracy, a new take to adrenaline, a new take to resource management. Yes, it took all that, but it lacks UI. It lacks the freshness that was promised to Necromancy. So I don't think Necromancy is bad. I don't even think that the choices they made on what to include in Necromancy is bad. But execution-wise, on what they actually delivered...
Well, okay. I'll let you finish your thought. I didn't want to cut you off.
It's not polished.
Okay.
It's not polished.
Look at it this way, though. If you take a ranged melee or magic action bar, and you just throw stuff on the bar, there's a bajillion different ways to make a bar that doesn't work. Whereas with Necromancy, if I put the basics on there, and then I just press other buttons, I'm going to have a functional bar.
Alright, so it delivers on that. Is that the only thing it does?
No, I think from that you get a combat system, and this goes back to the failings of EOC. You get an action bar system that's easier to work around.
Okay, so they managed to... I mean, the fact that we had pretty significant balancing rounds implies the opposite, but okay, fine.
Only to the conjurers.
Let's say they nailed the combat design of this skill. There's lacking UI.
Yes, I will give you that.
There is the fact that the best training method is a skilling method, which I think is a polish issue. It's not a design issue, it's a polish issue. The UI of the rituals themselves is awkward and clunky. All of these things we talked about in the week after. The skill wasn't finished. I'm gonna grant you that, sure, there is a foundation there that is perhaps really solid, but it needed more time in the oven.
Yeah,
Fort Forinthry doesn't suffer from this as much.
Right.
Was it perfect? No, but what came out was pretty damn solid and very playable.
Fair. But what if, and this might not be my biases creeping in. You guys know I hate Slayer. You guys know I don't like grinding one combat creature forever. And maybe that's why I like the fact that rituals were Necromancy's main training method.
Well, I'm the skiller, and I mean, but it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be that way. Even though I would rather skill than do combat any day of the week, a combat skill should not get its XP from skilling. It's just weird.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one of the big lingering questions that really wasn't answered is, why do rituals give so much XP? Why are rituals such a main way of training combat in Necromancy? Right? I don't know that was ever answered.
And I honestly, I didn't do it that way. Like I trained in my Slayer dungeon because rituals were always hard and clunky for me to do anyway, so I did them enough to get the thresholds that I needed, but it was never preferred. So, I feel like I was doing it as intended, but boy, what a penalty I would have, that I took by using combat in a combat skill to level up combat.
Could it, and this, I'm almost finished here. I don't know if you guys are on Necromancy, but could it be that we're missing a piece of the puzzle and that we don't understand why rituals were made to be the best in terms of XP? Could we be missing a piece of the puzzle on that? I'll give you everything else that you've said so far, the both of you.
Oh, I'm sure I'm missing a few pieces of the puzzle. I mean, I don't know what they are, though, because they're missing. Could be.
+1. Nothing to add to that.
Okay. But can we at least agree, coming out of this, that Necromancy is not bad?
No, I don't think it's bad.
Okay, good.
It just, it's that thing. Nothing is fundamentally going to change. And even though I think I did know that deep down, I did not want to believe that. I wanted to believe that it was going to change, that it was going to make combat
and that's the biggest thing. Like when you say nothing is going to change, I have this picture in my head of the tick system and the grid by grid nature where you have an attack coming for you, and it's not clear how to get rid of that.
I mean,
it's clear now that we're never going to get rid of it.
No, I mean, that was clear to me before Necromancy, right? It was never going to be that transformative, but they did promise a better ramp up, a better learning experience, and just overall a more pleasant system. And that I don't think
because and to put you in that category, you're not dumb by any stretch of the imagination. And
sure,
when we would talk about Necromancy stuff, I would kind of say, do this, this, and this, and this, and you would say, okay, but why? And then you're like, what? Like, that's the sense that we got from Necromancy when we were working on some of those things. So we'll say that it wasn't as transformative as it was hoped to be. But I think the thing that we do walk away with in the end for Necromancy was that it brought power to people who didn't have it before. And by power, I just mean raw deeps.
It's fun. For what it is, it's fun. But and at the end of the day, I guess that's all you really can ask for, right? I mean, I don't know. It just didn't make combat doable for me.
Yeah. And let's also not forget that immediately, in a few weeks after Necromancy, people got 120 and got bored of it because in the eyes of like the people at the very, very top end of the PVM spectrum, it made everything too easy.
Yeah,
and it crashed the gear prices there.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like, I was able to do the same things that I was able to do before, but I was not able to do anything that I wasn't able to do after. right? Like it just didn't change. I didn't all of a sudden I could do a rack. That's not how it worked for me.
Yeah. Okay. And you know what? I feel like we needed to have this discussion. Maybe we should have had this discussion back in September or October, but we were otherwise occupied, weren't we?
I think that this is looking back on the year and being able to, you got to have time and distance to reflect, right? Like, we wouldn't have had the same conversation because even though like I was feeling it at the time, I don't want to believe it. I'm still holding out hope, right? With enough distance, you can go, well, this is the way it is. Here it is, warts and all. Some stuff was really fun, some stuff didn't change.
All right, fair enough. Anything else on Necromancy? No? Okay, we're good. And what I think we have described up to this point is a year that was a roller coaster, right?
I mean, you could say that again.
Like, and that was also true in the community sense, not only in the content sense. We had new community manager Mod Doom come onto the scene in February. We had him for a Behind the Crown in the middle of the year. We had the blow up regarding the soul die, which I'm sure we are all happily that we forgot about.
We have other blow-ups to worry about.
Then we had Hero Pass. And then we end the year with some of the most revered updates of the year by the community. Sorry, revered? Is that the right word? That's a good adjective, right?
Cherished?
Cherished.
Are we
talking?
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Like the community hit lists. The Christmas event this year.
Yeah, that's like, cherished.
It's just been such a roller coaster on the community side, on the update side. And I think I don't know if this is pre-show or at the very beginning, but Tanis, you said it best. This was like the Menaphos year, 2017.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me.
So, let's talk about that Christmas event, because that one definitely needs to be talked about here. Obviously, at the end of that roller coaster of a year, I feel like we finally got the holiday event everybody'd been asking for. Yeah. We got the new seasonal skilling hub. We got the Christmas quest. We got an event that doesn't have too much monetization in it. Granted, of course, we still have wrapping paper, the Treasure Hunter Purple Santa hat. But overall, I did not hear a bad thing about the Christmas event and quest this year. And I think that's what everybody always wanted too, was that quest that we got with that. Ziran, we haven't talked to you on the main podcast since this came out. How did you feel about Christmas, the Christmas event stuff?
I like it. I really enjoyed the city. Everything looked lovely. Big fan. I mean, that to me, that was the energy that I needed to get out of the Christmas quest, right? Like, that's the whole thing. A lot of the stuff with these Christmas events, I feel there is this need to have like this Christmas delivery thing and these daily things, and that to me, it's fine. I get it. That's how games work around Christmas. But just decorating the cities to me was the thing that.
Oh yeah, that goes back to like 2006 and how they did that.
Yeah, like that to me was like, I just love the energy that brought and the Christmas spirit. So yeah,
the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
And my thing is, can you capture that in all the other updates of the year? Not the Christmas aspect of it in particular, but just how people enjoy the content and latch on to it.
They can, but they have to. You have to do things like this that actually brings in all these different aspects and together makes this, like what we called it, a total package. It's either you got to do things like that, or you got to do something bold. And like And when I say bold, it doesn't necessarily need a ton of tech behind it. I mean, look at
Necromancy was bold.
Well, yeah, it was, but I mean, I'm just gonna say like something more along the fresh start lines. Look at what just adding a logistical challenge to the game can do, and look what it did in leagues. Like just that.
Oh, we're going there. We're going there, aren't we?
But just that one little tweak makes it a completely different experience that I'm trying to think about and figure out, and like that's the shit that would keep RS3 vibrant. Think about, I mean, it's the same game we've been playing, and how many ways can we play the same game? Give us some different things, right? Like I'm saying, it doesn't have to be technically huge.
Like I said, in week 2 of Old School Leagues, bring Trailblazer to RS3.
Oh, dude. I mean, if you could do those things, I think we have another 20 years.
Here's a thought. And this isn't on the script or on the list, so be proud of me for that.
No, you're going to monologue. I'm not proud of you.
No, I'm not going to monologue right now. What if the solution to moving RS3 into the next 5 to 10 years is to going the old school route, minus the polls?
You can't.
Well, what do you mean? What route? Like no.
I mean, you obviously have to keep the monetization because I don't think the product team would let that happen. Yeah. But I mean, minus the MTX, minus the polls, do the old school route. Extensive community consultation, extensive community discussion, back and forth, left and right.
I think if you say that and you say no MTX and no polls, I don't think you understand how the old school community works. Because I think they are a fundamental part of it. See,
that's actually a good point. That's actually a good point.
That when we talk about
they are different.
It's true.
Yes, they are. Like if you talk about what's the word?
Passion.
The thing is, with MTX, right? The moment you have MTX, it changes the incentives, right? It shows the company we're here to make money, and it automatically creates a chasm between the developers and the community. And you can never bridge that. You can try, but I think we have seen problems too often for that to be mendable at this point.
So you get at it then with seasonal things, right? Like give us different things. It doesn't always have to be like a big, huge piece of content. It can be just a twist on something that's already there.
Like, yeah. Like what are you referring to?
Like okay, where if you cordoned off, let's just say you cordoned off different regions of the game and said you can only access these certain places. Now you have to theory craft on, well, where do I want to be for what I'm trying to do? Or what if you took some kind of aspect from Darkscape where you had like human smugglers, like, right? Like you couldn't take things from one district to another unless you were on foot, and you couldn't, different banks were in different regions. There's plenty of things that you could do. I think that.
So are you saying to do this then to kind of just keep RS3 fresh and going then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just something to have
But
just like
and,
what
and, and
old
see,
school has with leagues.
And see, I feel like the majority of the dev team is probably tied up with existing headlining content that I don't know that they would have the ability to do that anymore in this day and age.
But that's where I think the community will have to. We're going to have to make a choice whether we continue to want the next new sword or bow, or do we want to keep this game fresh and fun and playable every day. Because once I have the toys, at some point you're going to get bored doing the same exact thing.
Right, and my daily RS3 has become, gather dinosaur roars, gather flasks, maybe do a Reaper task. When Yak Track was up, do the Yak Track tasks, and, based off of that, that's how I trained my skills, and that's what I chose to level up. But now without Yak Track, what am I going to do? I'm going to go do dailies.
Hey, maybe one of your seasonal events is a survival mode. Well, we know how that could work. We did it with the
Dimension of the Damned.
Mm-hmm. but there's all that kind of stuff. To me is fun, and I'm going to jump into it and do it every single time. So that's where I think the future lies, or could lie, should lie.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. It becomes a question of, what is RS3 aside from the headline updates, the Christmas stuff, the double XP stuff. And I feel like that gap that you're talking about there is where they go. And I realize this has almost become what to expect in 2024 and where do we go from here kind of thing. But we still do have a couple of sections to talk about there. But it really illustrates the question of RuneScape 3's future, I think, based on what we saw this year. I see Sirion nodding along. Do you have anything for the audio people to say in addition to that?
No, I think it's right. I think as grim as it sounds, we're fighting a losing battle trying to keep adding on content to the end. It doesn't work, right? People will finish even a completely new combat skill within a week, right? If they really want to. You can't keep pouring death hours into that. Like, the upgrades we're getting are bigger and bigger and bigger, and they take longer and longer and longer, and it just isn't sustainable anymore for what we're getting back for it. I think we need to be smart, not work hard. No, work smarter, not harder, right? That's. And
I do wonder what the necromancy metrics look like for people in the mid tier, though. That would be interesting to hear about. But
sure. I'm just looking at player numbers, right? Like, yes, we can't compare archaeology and necromancy. There was this whole worldwide pandemic going on. But if you look at the number of players before archaeology and after,
it went up and stayed up.
It went up and stayed up, and the first time that it went lower, if I remember correctly, that it went lower than the day or the time before archaeology was the week after Hero Pass dropped. Which was about a month after Necromancy. Necromancy didn't even get close to getting the amount of the spike that
archaeology. No, there was no bump. There
was hardly a bump. Like, the number of players that archaeology hit on launch has never been hit.
And to be fair, it was also a really bad time to release Necromancy in the summer, before people go back to school, before they go back to work, when Starfield was coming out, when people are on vacation, so on and so forth.
Well,
yes,
there's that. But once again, details, Shane.
But then I think back about Fresh Start Worlds. How many people logged on for Fresh Start Worlds? How many people kept playing Fresh Start Worlds throughout a large portion of it?
Oh, that's another thing from the start of this year. We never heard anything about Fresh Start after it ended.
You never hear the stuff that we liked and we think is like successful. You never hear about that.
No, but like, how much time did it take them to implement Fresh Start Worlds? Wouldn't have been free. But was it more expensive than an entire new skill and combat system?
I don't think so.
No, there's no way.
No way it was that expensive. You need to set up a few separate worlds. You even had to pay like a
membership fee. Yeah.
A membership fee for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it was a completely separate character. So it's like, it's literally, you set up a bunch of worlds, you set up some global XP modifiers. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's not a new skill.
Well, who cares if it's easy? It was fun. I don't give a shit what it is as long as it's fun.
And it was like 16 weeks, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I had a blast.
16 weeks, and I saw so many people who played all 16 weeks of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not even 16. Are we? Well, we're probably about 16 weeks after Necromancy launch right now, right?
That's 4 months. Yeah. To the day, actually.
To the day. We are 4 months after Necromancy.
And I quit doing Necromancy about 3 months ago.
I think all that needs to be said is said there.
Yeah. Yeah, and other things too that I don't want to go into right now, but I'm convinced we need to. Tanis, you know what they are. I don't know if Sirion, you know what they are, but Tanis, you know what they are. I think we need to go into those in 2024.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Okay, let's freshen up the plate a bit. Speaking of freshening up, there's a whole boatload of graphical updates this year.
Oh yeah.
Mod Black Witch, Mod Alex, and team hit it out of the park in all of these. Was this their name for it, or did you call it this, Sirion, the Gielinor Glow Up?
That was their name.
Okay.
Their name.
Which featured Karamja, the Lumbridge Swamp, Shiloh Village, Brimhaven, Crandor, Taverley, Southern Esgarnia, Catherby, Draenor Village, Port Sarum, as well as, later on, the Dungeons and Sewers, Varrock Sewer, Edgevale Dungeon, the Polypore Slayer Dungeon, amongst others, and more to come.
The Polys, yeah. Polypore? No.
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Polnevneach Slayer Dungeon.
Oh, I thought you meant the Polypore Slayer Dungeon.
Oh, yeah.
But I can't say that word, so I say Poly.
Say Smoking Kills Dungeon. There we go.
Yeah, the Smoke Slayer
Dungeon.
Dungeon.
Yeah, that's the one. That one looked really, really
yeah,
sweet.
that one was my favorite out of the bunch there. A whole bunch of texture updates in free-to-play areas as well. They fixed saturation and vibrance on all the outfits. So
love it so much.
My pants are actually green now.
Trousers.
Oh my. Okay.
It's a British game. It's a British game. You don't walk around in your pants in this game. You walk around in your trousers.
So I walk around in my knickers. How about you?
Arendar, Underground Pass, ZMI Altar, Entrana, and more to come, including the Fremennik area.
Oh, looking forward. I saw some previous screenshots.
Relica.
Damn, that looks good.
I can't wait for that to get out there, just because it doesn't matter. You pick any one of those areas. The best thing out of these graphical updates has been for me the contrast that it adds to the ground, and it's so much easier to see.
And we were actually just talking to Zant about this. He said if you look into any of the areas, even the ones that they're graphically updating, every area now has its own unique color palette to it in a consistent style.
These areas are done by people who know their stuff. Like, this is like...
And you know what?
These overworld areas are designed by environment artists, and I am so grateful for it.
And you know what? They started as Game Jam projects.
I know, and honestly, they're this close to being the update of the year for me, because I was just running around doing all the Christmas decorations in Varrock and Falador and Lumbridge, and even before you put all the Christmas decoration anywhere, it's night and day how good those areas look these days.
Yeah. That's true. We also got updated retro armors too, amongst other things. Some new player cosmetic outfits as well.
Freaking do.
I like my Saradomin rune armor.
I already got mine before this, so you know.
Which one is that?
The dragon ornamental.
Oh, okay, fair.
Yeah.
But is this are we finally at the point now where we can say do our Doyen and to Yanil and call it a day and have most of the world finally be updated? Because that's really
area? Did they do the troll area yet?
They did not do the troll area yet.
That's the one I'm looking forward to.
That was on their poll, but Relica and whatnot won out.
Yeah, Relica's good. I mean, all the islands there in the sea, like Lunar Island, could be like mix Lunar Island with how Arceus looks like in Zaya on Old School, and like, mwah, great. I want that kind of.
Oh, dude, we could do. I feel like there's so much potential in Lunar Island. Could make it like the mage's place in ESO. You know, the one, Shane, where you do the...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have they done Mauritania yet?
Yeah, they did.
Which time?
They did the Patadomus area, at least, and the Slayer Tower.
Okay,
yeah,
it would be good if they do the swamp and like Darkmeyer and Mayaditch. Definitely need a...
Ugh.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is who goes there aside from people doing the quest?
People go to
Sadis.
Darkmeyer. Mayaditch less so, but that at least put new textures in there, I guess. That should not be too hard.
And this is the problem I have. It's how do you marry this game that looks so wonderful, but for people like me who only have 120s left and Trim and Master Quest, how do you get people like me playing it?
It's called Trailblazer Reloaded. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
it's not Reloaded. It's Trailblazer Free.
Thank you. That's how you do it.
Like, based off, right.
Imagine if they had done all these graphical reworks before Fresh Start World.
Oh, man. Yeah, that'd been awesome. And look at how much we learned. I still think a lot of things this year was gained from Fresh Start, and they learned.
Oh yeah, all the mid-level content stuff.
Yeah.
We got to push them on that.
I learned a hell of a lot.
Like, we got to push them on that. It'll be 14 months by the time we get back to it, but we got to push them on that and say, you know, what happened with Fresh Start Worlds? What was the initial or the internal thoughts on that? Why are you guys being so quiet about it?
They don't want. Maybe they don't want us to know just how much they made, because I know how much they made off me and my friends, and that wasn't nothing. So if that went across the whole Fresh Start spectrum, they did all right for 4 months of minimal dev.
Yeah, because didn't you say you put, you know, like a few of the max key packages in?
Oh, I mean, I know I spent a couple $100, and all my friends spent more than I did.
Yep. No, and like, just that size is
right,
no judgment,
but
right?
to bring it home,
no,
aside from judgment, and to bring it home, these graphical updates sell the game.
The graphical updates sell the game. People come in and people spend money.
Mm-hmm.
We need these graphical updates, and I am so thankful that the people behind them chose to do them as Game Jam projects.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing we still need to come out of the Game Jam projects is Penguins in Space, the musical.
Ooh, has RuneScape ever had a musical? I mean, Star Trek
now,
is there
now
first,
you want one.
So now, yeah, I might be down for it now.
Yeah. I mean, I still think the bosses of that musical were great.
Beatsmaster,
Durzak, and Yamaharu.
Graphical updates, more please. Definitely a highlight point of the year.
Honestly, I think game jam projects are great, and we talked earlier about, do we need to do the old school model? I think game jam projects are what you get when you give developers free rein. And I think most of the things that come out of game jams end up being players' favorites.
Yeah.
They just
hey,
don't
hey.
end up...
I got a task for you right now, Sirion. Log in to RS3, grab your enhanced Excalibur, and click the configure option, and go through the list of things you can tell it.
Oh, no, I know.
The show.
I know. I know.
That's why a couple weeks back we had our show title for all intents and purposes.
Yeah. The thing is, nobody will buy treasure hunter keys for that. Or through that.
Yeah.
But do enough of those, and you end up with the number of players that old school has. And that is the paradoxical situation that we find ourselves in now more than ever.
Yes.
Because we have seen almost a shift from RS3 to old school. And I'm sorry, but an old school player just doesn't pay as much as an RS3 player. Sure, there's alts, but you just need more
and
of
isn't
them.
it a sign that you have a better game if you can get more people playing?
Depends on your definition of good.
Right. And it depends on, how you're looking at that spreadsheet at the end of the day. So, speaking of those game jam,
I think we've solved this at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it is cool.
It is capitalism has ruined RS3. There's your show title.
Yeah, it did it again. It always ruins the nice things. Yeah. But it is nice. Like
how to fix RuneScape in the future? Communism. Problem solved.
And I just want to say for
social
people,
democracy.
You get an account. You get an account. You get an account.
Also, I just want to say here, neither of these guys are communists. Just so nobody comes after us.
This is not the Cold War anymore, Shane.
Hey, I still worry about that.
No, but what we did do that I think is cool is we turned an end of the year show, and we gave it a little bit of a little monthly bit treatment at the end, and
but I still have one more section, the quality of life updates of the year.
Oh, not the quality of life updates,
because we were just talking about the Excalibur. I wanted to mention.
Is that QOL? I mean, that's just
yeah,
kind of fun,
it is.
Okay.
Like, one of mine,
you.
familiars will no longer despawn on death, and the persistent potion effects no longer clear when you die.
Oh, well, yeah, okay, yeah, that came with that, yeah.
Shift click to drop.
God, that's just such a godsend in old school. Power mining Iron Man.
No more moaning zombies.
Oh, I turned off ambient sounds because of that. You do a pretty good impersonation.
It's because I've listened to it for the last 2 freaking years every time I'm in a bank.
What about the logout timer increasing to 15 minutes?
Oh, beautiful. Right? I mean, that's
great.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit silly. It's locked behind the Jagex account. That is the weirdest.
Well, it's 10 minutes now.
It's
10 minutes for members now.
Yeah, it's 10 minutes for members and 15 if you have a Jagex account, I think.
Yeah.
And I find it the weirdest upsell of Jagex accounts.
But hey, I mean, at least it's not on Premiere like some people thought it might be.
Clearly, it's just a number in a config file they can tweak, and they put it behind Jagex accounts.
We're gonna get them. We're gonna get them on these accounts one way or
another. What else do we got for quality of life updates this year? You can kind of lump the graphical things into that, can't you?
Yeah, I mean, the other things that I would put is Fort Forinthry was, for me, those were the QLL updates of
like
of
the
the year.
machines, hotspots, and the ports, and the miscellany and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I can literally check all of my stuff in one place. I mean, that's just great. Yeah, no, I can't, and I can't think of any. That's the thing about quality of life. They have such a huge impact, and then when you try to think about them, you don't remember them. But they're huge when they come in, make everything so much easier. Extra presets. We have extra presets too. We did not.
It's great.
Oh, and the preset. You don't have to open the bank anymore. It loads the last one. Yeah, that was a good one too.
Yeah. And see, that's the thing. These kind of community hit list quality of life updates go hand in hand with graphical updates. And I think you nailed it, Sirion. That's what builds player retention and keeps people coming in. So
it gives you that level and sense of polish that the game feels like somebody cares about it. And that's it, right? Like, you want players to feel like you want them to feel respected, and that you respect their time and their effort. And if you try and grab their cash at every particular moment, you're not any better than a mobile game that's like, okay, now to finish building this building, you need to wait 2 hours or pay 2 V-Bucks, right? Like that kind of stuff. That's disrespectful to a player's time and effort.
And I think there was a very real possibility that had mobile taken off in the emerging markets they were hoping for, RS3 could have went that way.
Sure, but now to bring this back, and this brings us back all the way to the start of the show, to Hero Pass, right? I think what they failed to properly acknowledge as part of those changes is they were not respectful of the player's time and effort, in a sense, right? They added the gameplay buffs. I don't think there's anything wrong with gameplay buffs. I like them, but people saw it as disrespectful to their achievements and to their effort and to their grinds that they had to do.
Why did nobody articulate it in that way?
Because we were busy chasing a white milk with math.
How many people in the world do you know to have the ability to articulate their opinions on anonymous forums on the internet? Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on. And and I think the fact that Hero Pass came with a bunch of things like, oh yeah, it's going to replace Yak Track. Also, we turned all your challenge tokens into skips. We turned all your skips into skips, right? Like, we just did all of these things to you that you saved up without telling you in advance this was going to happen. And I think that
you got like 10 days notice only.
Yes, exactly. So, all in all, I think what we have seen year round is that one of the most important things is to be respectful to your players. Old School does this by running everything past polls. The RS3 team needs to find a way to do this with their community, to show them we care. You're not just a cash grab. We care about you as a player and as a person. And I know the investors don't, but the developers do. They really do. I believe that.
Yeah, let's be 100% honest. Everybody on the dev team does, and the interesting part is finding where that line is within Jagex of where it becomes about money and where it becomes about player.
RuneFest 24. Who's with me?
It helps. It helps. It helps.
Yeah. I want to go.
But it is truly a thing, right? Like,
the
incentives are to make money, but developers are like the games industry is the biggest passion industry out there.
Yeah.
I will stand behind that 100%. that leads to problems in the work culture. But it also means that we as players should count ourselves lucky if we have developers who spend their game jam time on building the things we really want.
Mm-hmm.
And we should also accept that things would be a lot worse if the investors made all the shots and the developers weren't there as a filter to try and make the best out of it. And I think Hero Pass was the best that they could make out of it.
And we also need to remember that we are in a very fortunate situation with RuneScape 3 that so many of the devs, key devs, are actually players of the game who play the game a ton. Have, the comp capes, the trim capes, the Master Quest capes, and the whole shebang, and PVM and all that. And it's rare to find that in games for developers that play to that level. Like, we compare that to the Star Trek Online dev team, the public ones at least. There's only 2 to 3 of them who actually play the game and know what's going on in the game, mechanically. I don't say that you absolutely need to do that, but it helps.
Yeah,
it does.
Like, you wouldn't... I mean, I wouldn't think that somebody could come to RuneScape and all of a sudden they're going to be... Or come from Jagex and all of a sudden they're going to be the, like, hot shot dev over a Rockstar on the next GTA 6, right? Like, it feels like that would be...
Yeah, I don't think you can
somebody that played all of the GTAs is like, I got this. Hold on, this is what I've always wanted to do. Lean out the window, but whatever. But it's that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, and I think that binds, like you said, the core central thread of 23 and what needs to be focused on in 24. And it's probably a good point to leave it there, unless you guys have anything else, because I feel like we came in with the idea of summarizing 23, but we, in effect, have also said what needs to happen in 24 for things to be successful.
We came in like a wrecking ball.
I mean, this you can't detach the year from the roller coaster that was the community, the updates, and everything.
Like, I know there was some discussion amongst our people about, do we talk about Hero Pass? And I was like, absolutely, we talk about Hero Pass.
I didn't want to talk about Hero Pass just because it took so much oxygen, but it's a thing that happened, and I mean, it happened, so I guess we can't ignore it.
No.
Next year, I hope to ignore that anything had ever happened that way,
but we shall see. We shall see.
We shall see.
Anything else from you guys before we go?
Nah, I'm good.
No. All right, sounds good then. Well, in that case, very Merry Christmas.
Oh, wait, one more thing.
Oh.
Overall, at the end of the day, I got my money's worth. I got my Premier's money's worth. Right?
Yeah, that's fair. Fair point.
I mean, how much more can you get than that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. If you're happy with the game,
I love that insight. Like, I'm thinking about it. Like, there's so much to complain about, but in the end, I paid like $60 and I spent so many hours on it. Maybe it's not so bad.
And that's why we do what we do here, each and every week. Any of you guys have anything left before we go? Tanis, Viserion?
No, I think we covered everything.
Alrighty. Well, just the usual reminder, if you want the podcast delivered automatically to you, the best way to do that is to subscribe. Update.show/subscribe. We're on all the podcast listeners out there. Apple, Spotify, Google, Pocket Casts, and more. And, of course, you can also find the YouTube versions of the show, or video version of the show, rather, on YouTube at youtube.com/RSBANDB. But nonetheless, a bit of housekeeping here. Next week will be the clip show. So Merry Christmas, everybody. And after that, we have a week off unless anything crazy happens. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed this look into 23. And what 24 needs to do. And with that, we'll be back next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. See you then, everyone. Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.